Coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this is the Spit Sports Show. Now, I don't know what to make of all training camp reports, if I'm being totally honest with you. Obviously, every beat reporter that is on site during these non-filmed practice sessions has their own prefaces, biases, and interworkings that affect what they're reporting. So, whatever comes out of training camp, obviously, you can take with a slight grain of salt. But when every beat reporter, or at least like 80 to 90% of the reporters on the field, are basically saying the same thing, you can probably take that as close to fact as fact can get without actually being a fact. And the fact of the matter is, all reports say that the Lions Dolphins joint practice, the first one I'm talking about, I'm filming this before the second one. It was as dominant of a joint practice by the Detroit Lions as we have seen, or at least as these reporters who are reporting on it have seen. I obviously have no idea. I don't watch joint practices. I'm not invited to them. Maybe one day. But this is concerning for a lot of reasons for the Dolphins. I'm not even going to talk about the Lions aspect of this. But to start with, the Lions obviously have brand new coordinators at both spots. The Dolphins have pretty coherent play calling throughout. This is Tua's fourth year in Mike McDaniel's system, and it appears that they had issues all day long. Now, I want to focus a lot of my attention this video on Mike McDaniels specifically because people forget the Dolphins started out 2-6 last year. They were really in cruise control after Tua's injury where they just couldn't get anything going on offense. It seems as though McDaniel's system is so complicated that no quarterback except Tua can run it. I think they've won one game without Tua since he became the starter. But Tua comes back healthy and they actually finish with a 6-2 stretch, which a lot of the media gave him big credit for. And rightfully so. I mean, it's not easy at all for a team with low morale, their quarterback hurt, 2-6. It's a tough turnaround to go from 2-6 to a 6-2 stretch. And that could say a lot about him as a culture builder and somebody who's able to retain faith in his troops as they go through hard times. But it wasn't enough. They did not make the playoffs. They got their asses kicked by the New York Jets in the last week of the season. I know the game was probably meaningless, but still it happened. My question with Mike McDaniel is, at what point is the nerdy, know-it-all, socially awkward act? I know it's not an act, it's who he is, but when is it finally going to wear off? Because if you look at Mike McDaniel, he absolutely has more of a journalist personality than an NFL head coach. In fact, he kind of strikes me as a guy who was just pulled from the media room and was put in charge of an NFL team because he knows schematics really well. He's obviously very, very smart. He is coordinated. We know how well he can run an offensive system and how creative he is. But I think the media protects Mike McDaniel to a certain extent because they see themselves in Mike McDaniel. I'm sure a lot of them would love to be the smart, quirky head coach because I'm sure, like I said, that's what a lot of them dreamed of being growing up. But at the end of the day, to be an NFL head coach, you have to have a aura of leadership and an aura of accountability. And it doesn't seem like Mike McDaniels has either of those going for him right now. He has players openly calling out the Dolphins' practice habits. His best player, Tyreek Hill, is openly criticizing their short yardage game. And like I said, they're getting their tails kicked in by the Lions at a joint practice. And Tua himself said it was a frustrating day on offense. They just couldn't get things jump started. Again, this is his 4th year in McDaniel's system. There shouldn't be any issues getting the offense jump started at this point. Again, especially against the defense that has pretty much brand new personnel because of all the injuries last year and a brand new defensive coordinator. And they just had nothing on offense the entire day, according to all reports. The Dolphins have a real chance of finishing last in that division this year. I think that they're better than the Patriots. I think. But if the Patriots' offensive line can somehow just be like slightly below average, I think Drake May is the very least intriguing as a quarterback, and he's shown flashes. I think their defense is going to be very, very good under Frable, and I think that their overall physical culture that Frable is going to establish will be very, very prominent over the long run of the season. And the other team in that division, the Bills, are obviously much better than the Dolphins. And again, I think the Jets could surprise some people this year if Justin Fields can just be kind of what he was in Chicago, which is make some runs on 3rd down, try to make the simple throws, and let the defense do what it does. Because again, I think Aaron Glenn is a awesome head coach and a culture changer head coach. And I think the Jets could surprise some people. The reason why they have a real chance of finishing last is because their trench play compared to not just the other teams in their division, but just in the NFL, it's some of the worst in the entire league. Their defensive line has been an issue since McDaniel got there. Their offensive line has usually been middle of the pack to below average. And like, I know that he can design an offensive scheme. I understand that he has some very creative double set running back play call formations. Like, I understand all of that. But can he lead men into battle consistently? Can he be an elevator? Can he be a motivator? Can he be a guy who, again, can be the head of the snake when you go up against these other juggernauts in the AFC and NFC? It's kind of the same argument I was talking about for Ben Johnson the other day. Like, I don't know. Because the Dolphins, since McDaniels got there, they remind me kind of like an early Mike Tyson. In that, obviously, I didn't watch him fight, but he could knock your block off within 15 seconds. We saw the Dolphins put up 70 points against the Broncos. We've seen them put up another 50 spot. Like, they can absolutely run up the score and embarrass you if the circumstances are right. But a lot like Tyson, if you dragged him into the later rounds, his lack of technique and fundamentals could be exposed a little bit, because it seems in the Dolphins' case, whenever they get into a dogfight, they turn straight into kittens. And that's not just my opinion, that's what the facts are. In McDaniel's tenure, the Dolphins are 6-15 in the regular season against teams with winning records. They commit penalties at the 7th highest rate in the NFL. This one's a bit wordy, but trust me, it's worth it. So listen up. Since 2022, they rank 31st in conversion rates on 3rd and short and 4th and short plays. They've gotten progressively worse in the red zone and finished 31st in red zone percentage last season. They also finished last in success rate against stacked boxes. So what does that mean? It means when it comes down to a man moving another man against his will, which is what football comes down to, the Miami Dolphins, they can't play that game. They can play 7-on-7 football just about as well as anybody. But when it comes to 11 on 11, when the offensive line and the defensive line become your pillars, what you build the rest of your team off of, the Dolphins continue to slip. And that to me is a reflection of the head coach. Like, I can't think of a better example than when the Dolphins played the Chiefs in the playoffs. It was literally the coldest game of all time. And Players knew coming in that it was going to be one of the coldest games of all time. It was one of the biggest stories going into the game if a Miami team would be able to handle those elements. And Mike McDaniel came out that game with 17 layers on, the biggest parka I've ever seen in my life, and he looked like he would rather be anywhere but on that sideline. Whereas Andy Reid came out like it was September 7th in Tampa Bay. He came out in his regular coat. He was so cold, his mustache was literally freezing over, but he gave the presence of, oh, it's just another game. The Dolphins reflected what it looked like their head coach was feeling in that they didn't even put up a fight in that game. It didn't look like they wanted to be there one little bit. And that's the other thing. There is no sense, from what I can tell, of a healthy fear in that Dolphins locker room. Like, this is important in coaching for sure, but also parenting and really any kind of leadership position that you're going to find yourself in life. There needs to be an implementation of a fear of failure and a fear of disappointing the man in charge. It's like, again, like parenting. Like, you don't want to disappoint your dad. It's just a healthy fear. Like, and the Dolphins know that there's nothing Mike McDaniel is going to do. Like, the worst thing that he's done disciplinary wise is he took away their ping pong table for a couple of days. I think that Mike McDaniel is a top tier offensive coordinator in this league. I love watching his offenses when they're clicking. It is very, very pretty to watch, and he is able to scheme guys open for sure. But as a head football coach, there's just no spark. There's no real competitive fire that he ignites. And like I said, the media protects him because they see themselves in him. They see the smarts, they see the love of football, and they see the awkwardness that a lot of them probably share in that little nerdiness complex. And again, you're going to want to protect your own. So they won't write as critically as they probably would about someone who's a lot meaner to the media. That's another thing. McDaniels is great with the media. Very, very open, talks to them a bunch about a variety of different subjects. He's always very detailed in his answers. But eventually you're going to have to put up some results and some playoff wins. And I think the first 4 games for the Dolphins this year are going to be pretty make or break for McDaniel, because you open with the Colts, which you should win that game. But if I'm being honest, I think it could go either way. And then you go Patriots, Bills, Jets. You have 3 divisional opponents in your first 4 weeks. If you're going 1-3 in those first 4, including 3 divisional losses to start off your year, that seat is not just hot anymore, it is scalding. And I am confident that with that, Mike McDaniel, I don't think will be the coach of the Miami Dolphins in about 1.5 more years. I put that as the over-under on how much longer he is going to be with the Dolphins. And I'm even more confident that he will not win a playoff game in Miami during these next 2 years. They're simply not good enough. To win a playoff game in the AFC this year, I just don't see it. So when that happens, can we please reassess how we react to coaches being hired? And what I mean by that is this. Constantly, we are looking for the next boy genius, the next offensive mastermind. When in actuality, football is a testosterone-driven game that is won and lost, again, by willing a man to move against his will. It's won by big men pushing other big men places they do not want to be. And I think you need a coach who will exemplify and endorse that. And Mike McDaniel, from all the stats that I've given you, from all of his media appearances, from the results that we've seen, He does not possess the ability to spark that level of intensity in a football team. And you can draw up as many two running back cool sets as you want, arrow routes and deep goes to Tyreek and posts and all of that stuff. That's great. If you're not winning third and short and fourth and short, if you're not scoring in the red zone, if you're not running the ball consistently in the middle of the field, you're not going to win a lot of football games, especially when you get to January and February. And so far, that's proven itself correct. I think McDaniels is not only on the hot seat, I think he's kind of a fired coach walking. And when he eventually loses that job, let's start to look at him as kind of an example of what can happen when you bring an offensive coordinator personality to a head coaching spot. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I want to know, am I crazy? Do you think McDaniel makes it through the year, maybe another year? How do you think the Dolphins are going to do this season? Let me know in the comments below. I'm small enough as to where I can respond to all comments and enjoy doing so, so drop some down there. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you really enjoyed it. The Spit Sports Show just hit over 400 subscribers. Big things happening on this channel. And as always, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out. Love you guys.